Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake saying hello on a Two for Tuesday morning. I might do more early morning streams. I didn't realize it was Tuesday until about 5 minutes before the stream started. Just wanted to experiment with doing a morning stream. Think it might be fun. We'll see how it goes. Let's talk about what we gonna talk about. Biden is waking up. He's getting aggressive. It's a delight to see. He's issued his first veto, knocking down a bill that would have been ridiculous and would have prevented investors from having a genuine idea of what they were investing in. Then New York City is preparing for a Trump indictment. It's a weird time to be alive, folks, but it is, at the very least, an interesting one. Let's jump right into it. Here is Bo of the Fifth Column talking about Biden's new, somewhat aggressive strategy. You might even say that Dark Brandon is back.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about President Biden waking up and deciding this is the week to really start talking about something, and how the Biden administration is going to be pushing certain elements all week. And this is all in reference to the House GOP budget proposals, something that we have talked about on this channel for a while. We've gone through the numbers. We have talked about how if the House GOP really plans on trying to achieve what they are saying in public, the cuts are going to be massive, and how they're going to hit Republican priorities really, really hard. Now, the Biden administration is going on the offensive this week. They're going to be talking about this all week. Today, you will hear about how the GOP all of a sudden wants to defund the police, how they want to cut border patrol, how they want to cut train safety. That's today. Tomorrow, they're going to be focusing on healthcare and energy costs, and how the cuts to healthcare and energy are going to raise prices for, well, everybody, but particularly those who live in red states. Then on Wednesday, they're going to talk about how getting rid of the manufacturing incentives will encourage manufacturing jobs to be shipped to overseas. On Thursday, they will talk about the expected Medicare cuts and how that's going to hit seniors. And keep in mind, older people tend to vote more conservative. They tend to vote for the GOP a little bit more, statistically speaking. And then on Friday, the big one, defense cuts and what it's going to do to national security.
There we are. Hold on a little bit more. I thought they voted overwhelmingly for the GOP. I realize everybody ages and plenty of people have been voting for the left their whole lives. And I realize that people can have conversions later in life. But I thought it was like 80, 90. The more I think about it, the more it can't be true. I'm going to look up the actual numbers on that. Let him keep going, Bo. He's getting to a very interesting point that I wanted to talk about with you.
Now, here's the thing about this. We've been through most of this. I don't think I've talked about the manufacturing stuff, but we've been through most of this on the channel. Everything the Biden administration is going to say this week is true. If the GOP in the House really plans on trying to make good on all of their public statements, it's going to take really deep cuts to a whole bunch of Republican priorities, and it is going to disrupt the rest of their talking points. You can't sit there and talk about border security while your proposal cuts, I want to say, 2,000 jobs out of Border Patrol. You can't talk about how the left is lawless.
It's 65% or excuse me, 62% for the record. But there's been a recent drop in support. It used to be closer to 70%. Interesting. Fair enough. Anyway, the larger point being, this is absolutely a demographic that is ripe for Democrats to go after. I love that Biden's doing it. Keep it going, Bo. He's almost there.
When you're advocating to defund the police, you can't talk about America first and making America great again and bringing the jobs back when you're getting rid of the incentives to do so.
Man's got a point.
This is going to disrupt the GOP a lot, especially when the impacts on veterans come out.
I am surprised anybody in the U.S. military still votes Republican after the fiasco with veteran health. I'm surprised anybody in New York still votes for Republicans after they refused the 9/11 first responders bill. It's shocking to me.
The reality is, if the House GOP wants to do what it is publicly saying, it is going to hit their base hard. And it's all fun and games to rally around talking points until it hits your wallet. And these cuts are going to hit Republican wallets hard. The Biden administration has decided, for whatever reason, this is the week to go after it. Seems a little odd to me. I don't know that I would have done it this week, but maybe the Biden administration is counting on people channel surfing and watching the news a whole lot because of some things that might be happening in New York. If that's their logic behind it, okay, I get it. I don't know that I would have done it when there's another big competing news story. But I'm not going to complain because for once it looks like the Biden administration is going to come out swinging.
All right. So number one, Biden is discovering that he's got a taste for blood. And I love it. Oh, late in life, he went a whole career being a pal to the worst human beings on earth and having no problem with that. But now he's discovering he does indeed enjoy a little red meat. Good. I wholeheartedly agree with that. One thing, I don't even know if I'd say this is a disagreement with Bo, because we're both just guessing at why the Biden administration is doing what they're doing. But one thing I'd like to put forward. Biden, being the savvy cat that he is, may be taking a page out of the Trump playbook. Do you remember all through the Trump administration how it was darn near impossible to keep up with all of the corruption? How it was so hard to focus our efforts, to play defense, because we were just getting hit from all sides. It was like dodgeball when you're the last kid on your team. It was awful. I think Joe Biden realizes, and as Bo has pointed out, I mean, he's not a dummy. He knows there's going to be tons of media attention on Trump. I don't think Joe Biden is trying to piggyback off the Trump media attention. I think he is doing the opposite. I think he knows that Trump voters are going to be encouraged by every single right-winger, like right-wing media producer, not to pay attention. And by the way, they won't be successful because it's too interesting not to talk about. But they're going to be desperate to fill their airtime with something else. What is he doing? He's filling it with a positive contrast for Democrats with the Republican Party. He knows a bunch of Republican voters are going to be searching for any news other, and in fact, a bunch of Republican newscasters are going to be searching for any news other than the indictment to talk about. And he's going to put them in a position where the only thing of equal note, or he's giving them the opportunity, I suppose, to talk about instead how much better Democrats are at running the country. It's a brilliant move. How much reach would that message have had next week, the week after? Even if there's no Trump indictment this week, it's still going to be wall-to-wall people talking about, is it today? Is it today? But on the right, they're going to be looking for something different. I think this is a genius move on Biden's part. Specifically, what he's talking about is targeted towards right-wingers. Hell yeah. Dark Brandon. I'm telling you, man. Just an absolutely stellar move.
We'll have to wait and see how committed they are to it.
My point is, I don't think it's just channel surfing. I think it's very much a more involved strategy than that, and one I gotta say I agree with.
But the Republican Party in the House has talked itself into a corner. They have made all of these wild claims in public about what they want to do and how deep they want to make these cuts. And now they're finding out what they're actually going to be cutting. I have a lot of concerns that because a lot of the House GOP is in its own social media echo chamber and feedback loop, that they may actually allow the U.S. to default if they don't get their way. Which, I mean, I think it was the Congressional Budget Office, or maybe it was Moody's, but one of them, one of the analysis, kind of showed that a short-term default would actually be better for the U.S. economy than the Republican budget. So, I mean, there is that. Either way, expect a lot of talk about the budget this week because the Biden administration has made it very clear that this is what they're going after, and they're going to talk about it. And the Republican Party isn't going to have a lot that they can hit back with. Because the reality is, if they want to do what they have publicly said they are going to do, it's going to take these cuts. It's going to take very deep cuts to things that the Republican Party has viewed as core principles. And there's no way around it. It's going to be weird hearing Republicans try to justify defunding the police after the last few years. It's going to be weird seeing them try to square their image of Biden, because remember, in those circles, he is cast as some leftist. For those that don't know, he's not. He's center right.
Yeah.
He is not a leftist in any meaningful version of the term. He is definitely pro-capitalism.
I'm just so glad that other people look goofy when I pause them too, because there is not a still shot of me where I don't look like a jackass.
And they're going
Christ.
to have a hard time.
All right. So we'll just keep it on Bo looking like you're telling him a juicy secret. So I just want to make it clear right now that center right thing. Those who genuinely follow politics, like seriously follow politics, understand that Joe Biden on the political spectrum genuinely does fall to the right. You know, center, certainly center, but to the right. And I'm singing his praises in 2 segments on this very stream. I want to make it clear. It is possible for lefties to get along with right-wingers. It is possible for the America Biden fantasizes about and pretends to live in to actually exist. I would love the Conservative Party to just be the Democrats officially. And that's the future we got to work towards. But let Biden be the proof of concept. If you're the sort of person who I don't need to explain the details of why Biden is indeed a right winger, don't go too far, I would say, down the rabbit hole with that. Simply appreciate the fact that there is such a thing as a conservative that you can work with. I know, seems silly. But I also really want to point out that what we have operating as our conservative party at the moment is not truly conservative at all. The only word I can think of that would encompass both factions in the right wing would be oligarchical. But even then, the MAGA folks aren't really. They just sort of put on that hat to justify policy. The point is, we can make an America where we are working with people we broadly disagree with. And as we build towards that America, I would recommend we develop the habit of working across the aisle. Not in the way Joe Biden works across the aisle, generally speaking, where you just sell your soul in exchange for a handshake. No. But there are indeed issues of mutual interest that we can get people working on. You just got to stop thinking in the framing that we have been told to think in, because it's poisonous. And by the way, it's designed to make oh Christ help me, the Lenin's coming out. Not Lenin, wait, that. The Marx is coming out. It's designed to make the proletariat fight each other. That's the fancy words for it. The other words for it is it essentially comes down in this country, in this era, to the rich versus the human beings. It's going to be a hell of a task to convince people that are okay hanging out with like straight up Nazis to vote with us. It's going to be a hell of a task, but it's doable. And it's going to be easier than getting people who are in the traditional Republican Party to vote with us on a lot of issues. Because the motivations for the traditional GOP, they know what they really are, and they know the difference between what they're motivated by and what they say. MAGA, their political compass is spinning. And all we got to do is tell them the truth effectively.
Responding to this, we can hope that there is enough pushback from outside of their echo chamber that they start to adjust their views on this and maybe soften their position. Because if they stick to a hardline position on this, it doesn't matter if they get their way or it defaults. It's really bad for the U.S. economy. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
All right. What can you do? Very same thing you can do in the next segment as well. There's a link in the description to contact the White House. Use it. Tell Joe Biden you're proud of him. This guy is experimenting with actually being aggressive. This guy is experimenting with pleasing the left. He's stretching out his dark Brandon muscles. Once in a while, he has a glass of cooking sherry accidentally. Sees some of the old muscles in the mirror and decides, fuck it, I'm going to do something. I'm going to put on the old lady aviators. Do something kind of slick, Jack. When he has done this in his presidency, I'm going to do a Jordan Howlett. Come here. When he has done this in his presidency, he's gotten a ton of praise from the public. Remember that whole Dark Brandon meme? Don't pretend like he didn't see it. I know he's old, but he's powerful enough that he has young people that work for him that say, hey, look at this. He's responding positively to praise. We got to give him that praise. Give him the praise. Tell him, great job. Great job on this media tour. Great job this week. It's going to keep him doing this, and this stuff is effective. The MAGA folks, the MAGA house, does not realize quite yet the reality of dealing with the American attention span. They could get out of this. But yeah, what the hell? If you happen to be watching this, I don't know if you're doing like Oppo research or whatever. I don't know if you just clicked on a wrong link and you can't figure out which window to close while you're trying to have a gentleman's masturbation session. But here's some advice. You will not suffer from this for more than 2 or 3 days if you just throw in the towel. You have, MAGA, a nonsense budget goal. You know it, and for Christ's sake, even Joe Biden knows it. Your people are never going to be satisfied with what you do. So the way to minimize the damage is rip that Band-Aid right off. You can spin it. Go ahead and spin it. You can really go crazy. That's what you love. Go crazy. Say, we need all hands on deck for Donald Trump, our president. We don't have any more time to spend on this. We didn't know that the crazy left was going to try to indict Donald Trump. So now we need to blah, blah, blah. Anyway, here's our budget. We're doing what Biden said. Yada, yada, yada. My point is, how many headlines is that going to generate? Particularly now, in this week? Are you kidding me? Throw in the towel. Because you're not going to suddenly start winning this fight. You're getting your ass whipped. And it can only be good for the country. I'm encouraging you to do this, MAGA, knowing full well that there is, at best, one guy who votes for Trump that's listening to this. If that's you, pass this along, because this is genuine advice from the opposition meant to help. Meant to help. Clearly, MAGA, you don't have a budgetary goal. You don't really. Yeah, you don't have to admit it out loud, but you know it, and I know it. There was never a plan. So throw in the towel. But for the rest of us, contact Joe Biden. Tell him he did a good job. Because he did a great job. And he needs to hear that we enjoy it. That we sees it and we likes it. Even though I think his target audience for this is MAGA. I want him to remember the positive feedback he got the next time such an opportunity arises. And by the way, we have about a baker's dozen trials of Donald Trump in our future. There's a lot of opportunity to message to this audience. Take it. And convince Joe Biden to take it. You can do that by sending one email. Go get him. Summon Dark Brandon. Well, that's not all he did. That was yesterday, of course, that he made that announcement. He's doing another one today. Something else Joe Biden did yesterday was sign his first ever veto. And it was a good one. Let's have a quick gander at the news coverage of that. I'm going to, of course, interrupt it and tell you what you can do.
President Biden issued the first veto of his presidency on a bill that passed with bipartisan support. As the AP describes it, Biden sought to kill a Republican-authored measure that would ban the government from considering environmental impacts or potential lawsuits when making investment decisions for people's retirement plans. Biden released a message explaining his thoughts on the measure after the veto.
I just signed this veto.
Good Christ. This is why you shouldn't be a pessimist, because I just assumed because of the different time there would be absolutely no one in the audience. I see all the comments. I'm going to respond to them after this. It's a relatively short segment. We'll definitely get to it. Delighted to have y'all here, by the way. Let's watch Dark Brandon keep his streak going.
Because the legislation passed by the Congress would put at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country. They couldn't take into consideration investments that wouldn't be impacted by climate, impacted by overpaying executives, and that's why I decided to veto it. It makes sense to veto it.
Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and John Tester voted with Republicans in the Senate, while Congressman Jared Golden voted with the GOP in the House. In response to Biden's veto, Manchin released a statement criticizing the Biden administration. It reads in part this administration continues to prioritize their radical policy agenda over the economic, energy, and national security needs of our country. And it is absolutely infuriating. Despite a clear and bipartisan rejection of the rule from Congress, President Biden is choosing to put his administration's progressive agenda above the well-being of the American people.
All right. I didn't, in the description, I didn't put this link in the live stream. It will be there in the VOD. One of the things you can do, is make sure there is an overwhelming victory for Democrats and specifically progressives in 2024, because sons of that punk, there we go, that punk right there has got to go. If that mother effer existed in a Senate that had an overwhelming Democrat majority, he would not be a Democrat. He is our version of George Santos. And I don't agree with George Santos still being allowed to call himself a Republican, still being allowed to be in any political party at all. I don't think you can hold your head high as a political party and allow members into it that do stuff that is contrary to your beliefs. At that point, you are not a political party. You are just, I guess, a voting bloc. The difference being a political party is supposed to have a platform and a set of beliefs. That dude doesn't have them. That dude should not be a Democrat. I want him gone. I assume most people who vote blue do. And the way to do that is make sure we don't need him.
Joe Manchin,
he's
Democrat.
a punk.
Joining us now, White House reporter for Bloomberg News, Josh Wingrove, one of our favorites around here. So let's start with the bill. Josh, walk us through it and how the president got to the decision he made.
The ESG bill in particular, I mean, look, this has been swirling a long time, John. This is a lightning rod issue. It kind of has a little bit of elements with critical race theory, and that it's been sort of a rallying cry for Republicans. And of course, that's put Democrats in pretty Republican states or swing states in tough positions. So the temperature is high, and it is sometimes difficult to reconcile some of the rhetoric on this ESG issue with the rule itself. I mean, from some of the criticism, you'd think that it requires every investment manager with a proverbial gun to their head to like invest in only windmills and, whatever. That's not the case with this bill. I mean, this bill would sort of lift legal risk for investors who want funds that skew more to this. For instance, if you're someone in your 20s who doesn't believe in heavy carbon type industries, you might not want to put your money in a fund that piles into fossil fuels or whatever. West Virginia, of course, is a pretty significant fossil fuel sector, so that might be a factor for Senator Manchin as well. So this is just a lightning rod issue that has been sort of, like I say, sort of a Republican sort of like a cudgel for some time, and it's not a surprise to see Biden doing it. The DOL had actually rolled back. The final rule is softer than it was to begin with. I do not think that if we do see protests in New York, they will be Wall Street protests on this rule today.
Probably no need to have the additional security.
Again, Biden has become savvy. Ooh. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was always a sharp politician. He was always, he's a smart guy. I'm not going to pretend like he wasn't able to be savvy before. But he just chose not to do stuff like this. I'm not even going to guess at his reasons. But it's such a refreshing thing to see him lining up major decisions in a way that screws over, I'm realizing as I say it why he didn't used to do it, in a way that screws over his political opponents. And as I say it, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it's more of that red meat. He just didn't used to like doing that. And normally I would commend that behavior, except in my lifetime, which began not too terribly long before Newt Gingrich's career, the opposition have been villains, straight up villains. So seeing Biden working with these guys has always grated on me, badly, as a matter of fact. I love Dark Brandon, big fan of Dark Brandon. Yeah. There's not going to be a lot of uproar over this because the people who would make the uproar will be distracted. Let me just be clear about what this bill did, because they all did a terrible job of talking about it, and I probably will as well, but I'm going to take a whack. This bill simply allows people who are going to make an investment to have access to information regarding environmental estimates. For example, if you'll recall, we did a whole big stream on the worst regions for global warming in the United States over the next 10 years. And folks, we're at a point where nothing's going to stop that. Like, even if we cease outputting carbon entirely, the carbon dioxide entirely, with everything except our own mouths breathing it this year, it's still not going to stop the impacts that they're just on the way. Nothing we can do now. If you have that information handy about a piece of property you might be investing in, you may choose not to invest in one place over another. Remember Ben Shapiro, or I don't remember who this was, some wacky right-winger, talking about how if your property is going to be swallowed up by the sea, well, you just sell it. Move on. Who do you sell it to, though? If you get an estimate saying, oh, this house that I bought on the Florida coast is flooding? It's never flooded before. Oh, it looks like it's going to keep flooding and then eventually fall into the ocean within 7 years. I better get rid of it now. This allows the people who were going to, and it's my understanding is it's in regards to major investments, not individual sales necessarily. but using an example, this allows people to have access or to factor in environmental concerns. My point is, it's not a save the environment bill. It's a save the dollar bill. So obviously it had to get vetoed. And obviously Joe Manchin and the other clown that voted, Tester, I think it was, voted for it, should be ashamed.
Yeah.
It is a rallying cry thing. Republicans have seized on it. There are genuine questions about whether this is a slippery slope, but it is not something that will sort of fundamentally change everyone's 401k plan overnight.
So let's get your take on the other story there about the president signing the bill that requires the declassification of as much as possible of the COVID origin. It seems to me that everything about this is really a message about China.
Totally, which has a lot of bipartisan support right now in the building down the road from us. This passed unanimously in the Senate. This is a big issue, and Biden has taken steps here before. So I think in some ways Congress was pushing on an open door. The problem is China is just not.
And I realize the flaw in my example there. It's for retirement investment. It's not for individuals purchasing like homes and stuff like that. I was just boiling it down, but still, the function of it is that, but for retirement investment plans, retirement, whoever, Jesus Christ, Jake, whoever does the purchasing for these. I'm not even sure of the name of the job. I simply know that is who this bill would affect.
Cooperating, to put it lightly. And so whether we ever get to the bottom of this, we don't know. What Biden has previously released is his different agencies disagree. You know, they've got all their view, their sources, their methods, and all of them kind of come up with slightly different outcomes, none of them particularly conclusive. And so it looks like kind of a toss-up still right now. But the bottom line is the U.S. does not know this, and the world health community writ large does not know this, because China is not participating in getting to the bottom of it. Of course, that doesn't really look great for China either way. You know, was it sort of incompetence? Was it malicious? Was it whatever? We don't know. And so I think the odds that we will know, even after this declassification, are pretty low. But I think President Biden, you know, wouldn't have lost a lot of sleep that night. I guess we'll see what they declassify on it. But I wouldn't expect some, you know, flare that says, oh yeah,
that's what
actually hidden in the closet this whole time has been the answer.
So the bill itself is sort of a layup. It's basically just updating what investors get to find out about when they are planning. Oh God, here we go. All right. When they are planning retirement plan fiduciaries, it allows them to consider environmental regulations and factors. Excuse me, environmental factors, and as well as social factors. Things that will affect the investment, in other words, that weren't in the past even considered. So any opposition to this can only come from dishonest actors. I mean, unless it's something like protecting an individual's information, it would make no sense to limit the knowledge that an investor can have when making an investment. What can you do? Biden's going to get a lot of hate mail. Link in the description. Absolutely. Contact Joe Biden and tell him good job on the veto. First thing I did upon watching that clip, contacted Joe Biden via the White House contact link. Filled out my information. Said, great job on that veto. You see another thing like this, do it again, and you will have my vote in 2024. I said it, I meant it. If you feel that same way, you should let him know. Supply him with the information he needs to make a wise investment in his time. Let's look at some comments. Ooh, boy. JFJ Live says, I'm letting you know what you can do. Vote blue everywhere, and let's fix all these problems with progressive legislation and massive reform. Hell yeah. Franny P just emailed Biden. My gal. Hell yeah. All right, we're gonna take it from the top. Good morning, homie, says JFJ Live. Good morning, JFJ Live. And I'm delighted that you're here for it. He also says, or they also say, it's all about voting, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, GOP cannot hold most districts by popular vote. I think that's fortunate. By gerrymandering, the GOP holds a grip on many places. True, and we did a stream about how to fix that. But it is a very fragile, tenuous hold. Very well put. Enjoying Beau of the Fifth. Hell yes. Lawrence St. Laurent says, howdy there, old pal Jake. Good to see you, Lawrence St. Laurent. How are you this morning? It's not all about voting. Voting is an essential part, but not the be-all, end-all. So overall, Lawrence St. Laurent, I believe you are correct. It is indeed not the be-all, end-all. It is, however, the final. It's the final part of a political struggle. No, not a cycle, I suppose. But you're quite right, and let me explain specifically the mechanics of that. So once you voting is sort of the beginning and end. It's the last hand that gets played, but it's also the cards you have in your deck. And when you have somebody in office, you hope they're in the party you want, and regardless, you push them in the direction you want, and you hope they're in the party that you want because it's easier to push them in your direction then. But no matter what, you push them in the direction that you want. Even if you won't be successful at getting them to where you want to go, you will be an obstacle towards them going against where you want them to go. But the fact that I now have a stream where two people are talking about the finer points of how best to heal the country, literally a career dream come true. Love you both. Also, Biden's 80. He's not looking for a job as a lobbyist or a podcaster. Good point. He's done after this. He's going to a beach somewhere. Biden is smart. People underestimate him, says Foxy Dragon. Yes, true. Including me from time to time. He's soft-spoken. And that has led me to forget he is a political player of the highest order. I say that as a compliment. Beau dawned on me says Beau is astoundingly good with analysis and getting content out that can be consumed by challenging people to use logic. Yes, very true. Franny P says we lefties are working across the aisle with Biden. We elected him. Yeah. We tried like hell for Bernie, but fair enough. We use what we got. The current, Lawrence St. Laurent says, the current GOP is not conservative, quote unquote, gradual and considerable change. They're reactionaries or regressive, yes. But conservative can be attracted to that. Very true. Jesus Didn't Charge says, who would have guessed Biden's capacity for deviousness? Did not vote for him in the primary, but glad he won as his skill set is perfect for what the country needs during treacherous days. Ooh, well put. Very well put indeed. And then Lawrence St. Laurent says, agree with you, Jake. Contact politicians at local or federal level. Positive reinforcement is essential. Maybe we should embrace woke Joe and get rid of Sleepy Joe. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oof. Got a lot of them. Going to read one more from Mars Falcon. We need legislation to remove money from politics. How lobbying isn't bribery is beyond absurd. Absolutely. Let's see if I have right now, right, Cha? Yes, I do. I'm gonna put in the chat here the Wicked Guide to Getting Big Money Out of Politics. Well, there it is. We have a plan for that. I didn't even come up with it. I'm just telling people about it. Citizens Take Action has a plan for getting big money out of politics. They are They have looked at the legal framework necessary to get it done with. And if we get enough folks supporting that, I expect it will be successful. But it is going to take a mass effort. Fortunately, y'all are here, and we have people on all levels of American life that are interested in this as well. I'm going to do one more. Tim Yak, good to see ya. I'm not sure if this is I'm not sure if you've been in before. If not, I'm delighted to have a newcomer. I sent a short positive email to Joe, says Tim. Thank you for being here today, sir. Well, it is my pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And my gosh, thank you for sending that email to Joe. Boy. Well, let's get in. If we're talking about red meat today, let's get into it just a little bit more. And I'll fully admit, this is just a little bit petty. But it's going to be fun too. And there is an important what you can do about it. New York is preparing for a Trump indictment. Here's what that looks like.
This morning, police in several major cities are on alert for potential unrest in case former President Trump is indicted, which Trump has claimed will happen today.
It may not happen, but the probability is it will happen.
In New York, police have set up barricades outside the courthouse where Trump could be fingerprinted and photographed if charges are filed. And every member of the NYPD is reportedly being told to be in uniform today. After Trump called on his supporters to protest, the NYPD says it's seeing calls on social media for demonstrations, roadblocks, and even a trucker boycott.
We're here to claim our streets back. We need a DA who's going to focus on doing the job and not weaponizing his office.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is considering whether to charge Trump with falsifying documents.
Okay. This is just to be entirely clear, I have no evidence for what I'm going to put out there. I just want you to be aware of your old pal Jake's suspicion. There was a trucker protest in Canada, if you'll recall. It just about shut down a whole city. It took them a week to get those folks out of there. Now we're hearing about rumors of a trucker protest being organized in New York. The United States had an event called January 6th, wherein a crowd was riled up and sent to the nation's capital in an attempt to overthrow an election. In other words, a coup. On January 8th of this year in Brazil, the same thing happened. And we found out, oh, look at that. Brazil's former dictator, who got booted out of office, hanging out in Florida. Oh, look at that. He hired Steve Bannon and Steve Miller to advise him. My suspicion, and I really want to stress that this is just a suspicion, is that in the Americas, in this chunk of the world, there is a group of right-wingers organizing the worst civil actions that we are seeing. I'm not going to dwell on it until I have proof. But I put this to you now in case somebody else has already found out about it and it's just not a big news story and you can point me in the right direction. But that's what I'm going to be looking for, because there is very specific behavior that seems to have been happening amongst very fashy circles, and it needs to be addressed. if it turns out it's not just a coincidence, which it could be.
Connection with the hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Republicans accuse Bragg of playing politics. Florida governor and likely presidential candidate Ron DeSantis took a shot at both Bragg and Trump yesterday.
Look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. The Manhattan district attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor.
Oh. I would have almost liked DeSantis for taking his first shot. Ugh. Why did he have to go Soros-funded? I know why, because he needs to appeal to the crazies. Yeah, on the off chance you don't know, that's just a way to say Jews. Shameful. It is delightful, however, to hear him recap exactly the shady stuff Donald Trump did, and may they keep on fighting. Ooh, it's good. It's so good.
And so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda.
Absolute scumbag, just for the record. Really, really want to stress that I don't actually know that he's done something outright criminal, but the laws he's enacted, this man should just have rotten vegetables thrown at him wherever he goes, 100% of the time for the rest of his life.
On society.
Bragg responded to DeSantis, saying homicides and shootings are down in Manhattan. Meanwhile, attorney...
Hold on. Wouldn't you just love it? Like, if Alvin Bragg, Harvard-educated Alvin Bragg, whenever he leaves office, like on his last day, whenever that is, calls someone like DeSantis, maybe DeSantis specifically, a honky. I would love it. I would build a statue to that man just for how beat red DeSantis' face would go. Like an actual racial epithet or whatever. I don't know how to say it. An actual racial slur. After, just however long his career lasts of being accused of the wildest stuff, to actually go there would be so funny on the last day. Oh, I hope he doesn't listen to my requests, because a lot of them aren't good, and I'll at least acknowledge that in the moment. But it would be funny.
Down in Manhattan. Meanwhile, attorney and Trump ally Robert Costello appeared before the grand jury yesterday at the request of Trump's lawyers, hoping to offer evidence that contradicts testimony from Michael Cohen. Cohen spent more than a year in prison after pleading guilty to campaign finance violations, admitting he helped arrange the payment to Stormy Daniels at Trump's direction.
If they want to go after Donald Trump and they have solid evidence, so be it. But Michael Cohen is far from solid evidence.
Cohen responded last night, calling...
Yes, he is. He went to prison for the crime. The prosecutors that put him in prison said he had an accomplice. He's naming his accomplice. How I realize that they're going to build a whole case. They have built a whole case, and they are going to back up everything Michael Cohen says with evidence. But let's not forget, they already had enough evidence to get a conviction, and they got a conviction. It was his conviction. They just need to be like, okay, so real quick, I'm going to ask all my questions. Who was the other guy? Donald Trump. Thank you. No more questions. It's great evidence, is my point. There's Butch Cassidy, and all he's got to do is get up in front of a mic and say, Sundance Kid.
Costello's statements false.
There's not another dope that's willing to put his backside on the line for Donald. For whatever the reason Costello is elected to do this, I don't know.
And the Secret Service is now coordinating security plans with the NYPD.
You guys know I have a special affection for nerds. I am of the nerdy persuasion myself. God damn, I love when you find out the newscaster has full-on translucent glasses. Those are nerd glasses. If you've got them, Fair enough. I assume you have a job that involves, actuarial tables, and I'm impressed. And I love it when a newsman wears them. If I didn't do this for a living, I would design clothing.
In case of an indictment.
Hi, everyone.
I did not need to see George Stephanopoulos that close unexpectedly. Well, what you can do on this one is not terribly difficult, not terribly likely to be needed. But if you find you're in the position, you have literally a legal as well as a moral obligation to do it. If you hear about somebody talking about getting froggy, somebody talking about doing violence, doing something illegal in regards to Donald Trump's indictment, if you see on your social media somebody saying they better not indict Trump or I'm going up there with my Second Amendment privilege to take care of it, you got to send a tip to the FBI and the NYPD. Screenshot that. Google how to screenshot something if you need to. Screenshot that. Send it to the NYPD and the FBI. Both of them. Yes, they're going to be flooded with all kinds of stuff. That's unfortunate. But we have caught a lot of bad guys that way. And we're going to need to be on the lookout. Because the craziest amongst this group of Americans in the early 21st century will have motivation to go do some wild Can't let them. Be ready to contact. Laura. JFJ Live says, never mind, I'm reading the wrong thing. Lauren St. Laurent says, here in Belgium, hello to Belgium. There's a nonprofit that gathers voting records and quotes, etc. of politicians and makes charts to situate them on various issues. Good point. I know we have something similar here. I'm going to try to make it a regular part of the broadcast to show an organization that does that, because I think that's a great tool for getting people to vote for their interests, which in the United States of America, basically for every single human being, means voting against the Republican Party. I'm going to absolutely do that. I got one more for you today. For this stream. I got a hell of a lot more for you throughout the day. We're going to do another stream later in the day because it is 2 for Tuesday. Christ. It is 2 for Tuesday. It's Tuesday. And that means we do 2 streams. But today, there is a report which I have wanted to talk about for a minute. And it's become relevant again. The Trumps stole our stuff. Let's have the quickest of ganders at this report because it's wild. And I didn't think I could be shocked by something that the Trumps did. But once again, shocked.
Some video content is silver and some video content is gold, like this video content. The President of the United States and members of his cabinet swashbuckling giant swords at a state dinner in Saudi Arabia. We really can't get enough of this video. It was President Trump's first foreign visit as president in 2017. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, he was also on that trip, and it turns out he got to take some swords home with him. This is
I'm not going to deny. I would be tempted to do what you're going to hear. But I wouldn't do it. Because it's illegal.
one, engraved with pictures of a crescent moon. It comes with its own custom scabbard, wrapped in sheets of gold.
Jeez.
The Saudis gave this sword to Jared Kushner as a gift when he visited the country in 2017, and it is priced at around $5,400. The Saudis gifted Kushner a second sword for good measure. It sort of looks like the one Trump was dancing with, and it is valued around $3,000. And look, Jared Kushner is not the first government official to receive a lavish gift from a foreign official. Gift giving is a weird part of diplomacy. But a gift from a foreign leader does not belong to the government official. It belongs to the government. And all government employees, including the president, are required by law to report to the State Department exactly what was given to them, who it was from, and then turn it over to the National Archives for safekeeping. And it turns out when Kushner took those...
When they say it belongs to the... When Alex over there says... Alex Wagner over there says it belongs to the government. Just let me be clear. It belongs to you and me. Like, it's wild to me that people don't get angrier when something was stolen from the government. Because that's ours. And the thing that makes it ours is that if we want it, we could all get together and sign a petition to tell them what to do with those swords. Truly. we have a say in what happens specifically to those silly-ass swords. I don't know why we would, but it's our right to do that. We can't all get together get together and sign a petition and say what we're going to do with John's chair. It's irrelevant. It's John's property. But when something belongs to the government, such as a bejeweled sword, it's ours. So this is literally stealing our treasure. Freaking wild. I'm going to let her get right into it.
The swords from Saudi Arabia, he never officially reported the gift to the State Department, which was not only a Jared Kushner problem. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released this report today about the handling of foreign gifts during the Trump administration.
It is delightful to me that the GOP, their committees, this isn't... Yeah, But the GOP's committees have done so poorly, while Democrats keep knocking out teeth. Hell yeah. They are auditioning for a hell of a 2024 in the House.
And according to the report, Donald Trump and his family failed to report over 100 gifts from foreign countries, worth a grand total of nearly $300,000.
Jesus.
And it really is an odd assortment of stuff. Like this $12,000 silk carpet from the president of Uzbekistan.
Ours.
And this giant box filled with tableware from the president of Lebanon.
It's our tableware.
In case President Trump ever ran out of spoons. Also, this portrait given to Ivanka Trump, made out of mother-of-pearl mosaic tiles.
They can keep that one.
And this fake diamond-encrusted falcon from Kuwait, which is sitting on a sort of creepy, severed falconer's hand.
That's just a glove. Come on now. It's a falconer's glove. That's not what's creepy about it. What's creepy about it is that a corrupt government, which had enough money to make a diamond falcon, bribed our corrupt government with it. And that it was clearly possible, and that we have to talk about it now because our corrupt government then did a crime with it. I want that diamond falcon back, though.
Also, inexplicably, the statue of pumpkins. Someone must be a big pumpkin fan in the Trump White House. All of these gifts were given to the President Trump and members of his family.
He thought it was a self-portrait, a bust.
By foreign governments, and all of them, plus 100 or so more, were never reported to the government as required by law. The National Archives has since gotten their hands on most of these items, though it remains unclear how many were returned before Trump left office and how many were returned after he left office. But there are still 2 items that are missing, including a $7,000 set of golf clubs from Japan and what is described as a...
Wait a minute. Okay. 2 items are missing. It's the golf clubs and a giant portrait of Trump.
larger-than life-sized painting of Donald Trump commissioned by the president of El Salvador.
Who do you reckon? In the Trump crew didn't return their stuff? The $7,000 golf clubs and the larger-than-life sized painting of that buffoon. Who didn't return their stuff? I mean, there's no such thing as enough charges against someone. You either did a thing or you didn't, and the law is supposed to be obligated. They, in fact, are obligated to find that out. By the law, I mean the DOJ. To find that out and address it. But that is the most hilarious whodunit I have ever seen in my life.
Which tells you a lot about Trump's passions. Golf and himself.
Oh, get him. Oh, Lordy Lou. I mean, come on. Hard to do much with that in terms of what you can do. Just remember to vote in primaries. We don't need... This stuff is funny to talk about, but can you just imagine where the world would be if we hadn't just wasted multiple years of American existence being run by a clown who steals tchotchkes? Expensive tchotchkes, I guess, but tchotchkes. That's where his efforts were going. Personally enriching himself. Where are our efforts going now? Finding out what he did with his time and going about all the work of making it right and yada, yada, yada. You imagine if over those last few years we had been working towards productive things? We had been funding electric vehicles to make them cheaper. If we had been getting ahead of this supply line business, if we and actually making our own microchips, if we had been working on Medicare for all or housing for the homeless, or things that are required. I mourn the accomplishments lost to nonsense. Here's my goal for 2024, and I hope you share it. I would like us to absolutely saturate American government with Democrats. Whether they are true progressives or only Democrats in name, I don't care. Obviously, I'd prefer progressives, but my point is, I want an absolute, undeniable wave of Democrat victories because it will accomplish 2 things that will make literally the rest of all of our lives better. The harder we work this year, the more likely we are to improve the entire rest of our lives. Thing number 1, it will kill the Republican Party as it exists today. Even if the name stays on another organization that takes its place, the Republican Party of my generation, this clown show that has existed only to fleece the American people, all it is is a group of folks who are willing to steal from you and me, who have worked on their sales pitch for telling us that their theft is somehow for our benefit. That's all they are. It's their only interest. That'll end if we can get House, Senate, presidency. An overwhelming majority. The other thing that's going to happen, if we get that, we are going to pass the greatest legislation that America has ever seen. I'm talking about New Deal type stuff. I'm talking about beating that. Why? We have the technology at our disposal. We have the political knowledge now as a country, as a voting populace. We have the political knowledge to understand how to move our politicians. Shows like this are going to keep cropping up, telling people how to move their politicians. And Democrats will have no reason to say no. No one to negotiate with. And Joe Biden will not be going for re-election. Joe Biden will be trying to make a legacy for himself. It would not be hard for him to start seeing himself as the next FDR. We should encourage that, and we should give him the tools necessary to make a hell of a good legacy. 2024 is the year. 2023 is a great time to start. Vote blue. Volunteer for campaigns for Democrats in your area. Get in the grills of your local politicians and make sure that they're campaigning as far left as they can, because as they can, because they will have heard from you, their constituent, talking about left issues and how you care about them. Put in the work. It's going to be a long one. Your old pal Jake will be here with you doing it just like everyone else. The benefit for it, if we are successful in getting a blue House, a blue Senate, and a blue White House, benefit will last for the rest of our lives. I don't blame Kushner for taking those swords. Those swords were cool as fuck. Franny P says, "Are you talking about healthcare for all?" Yeah, Medicare for all is healthcare for all. It's just a way of saying how we could structure healthcare for all. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Dawned on Me said, "Well, I support your view on voting. It's the only way to stop these thugs that are stealing democracy. We have to fight for our states as well." Yeah, agreed. Mars Falcon, missed the orbiter jest and sorry, my bad. Lauren Dates, I should not read these in reverse order. I'm now realizing old pal Jake's not all that quick. Lauren Saint Laurent says, "Yes, it's funny and ridiculous, but making fun of the dictator is a form of resistance and a way to let off steam." Wholeheartedly agreed. All right, folks, it's a 2 for Tuesday. That means your old pal Jake's going to be back later today. The general time I've been going up is 6. I'm trying to push that just a bit later to 8 o'clock. But I'll be real with you. Even I don't know when I'm going to go live, because sometimes I just can't hold it. See a news item, got to go up. The plan is today, though, for 8. I might do a stream in between. I owe you one from yesterday. Spent way too long editing. Looked up and it was like 12:05. I have no idea where the afternoon went. I was literally editing 2 videos. Yeah, it happens. I apologize. I do owe you one. Haven't forgot about it. You are getting 6 streams by Friday. I'll keep you all in the loop. And thank you for joining me right now. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. See you next time.